A long-awaited border deal now collapsing in Congress. That's prompting President Biden and former President Trump to blame the other over the border crisis. Joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao. Good evening, Iris. So what's going on with the deal to fund Ukraine and allegedly fix our southern border?
Good evening to you, Steve. So that deal is right now falling apart right in front of our eyes. And that's as more and more Republican lawmakers are pointing out that this bill is not going to fix our border and turning against it. Meanwhile, President Biden right now is blaming President Trump for why this deal is falling apart, saying Trump's telling Republicans to block it. Watch.
He's not interested in solving the border problem. He wants a political issue to run against me. Every day between now and November, the American people are going to know that the only reason the border is not secure is Donald Trump.
This bipartisan bill, which came only after months of painstaking negotiations, would give $60 billion to Ukraine and $14 billion to Israel. It will also give Biden administration the authority to shut down the border if more than 5,000 migrants cross over the border every day. But former President Trump on Monday wrote on Truth Social that only a fool would vote for this, what he called a horrendous border bill that will allow for 5,000 illegal encounters every day. And that's as some Senate Republicans are echoing that concern while adding on Tuesday that this bill might only make the border situation even worse. Watch.
We don't want to codify Biden's open door policy. We don't want to hurt the next Republican administration from their ability to secure the border, which is what Americans want.
President Biden, meanwhile, is also accusing Republicans of bailing on Ukraine by voting against this bill. But that says House Speaker Johnson is accusing Biden of trying to betray another key ally of the U.S., which is Israel, because the White House is threatening to veto a bill that would only provide funding to Israel alone. And that veto threat is again confirmed today at the White House briefing as Karine Jean-Pierre says President Biden would not concede to support anything that leaves out Ukraine, saying it has to be comprehensive. Steve.
Iris, it's really amazing how quickly opinions can shift in just a single day here in Washington. So now tell us what happens. Even you have Senate GOP leadership saying this bill has no chance of becoming law.
Right, that's exactly what Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell today was telling reporters at a gaggle. He's saying that this bill is not going to become law, given the opposition, of course, by House Speaker Mike Johnson. Meanwhile, he also asked that the Senate might now actually need to figure out something else, to put something that's actually not including any border talks, but only focus on giving funding to Ukraine and Israel. But we know that the Senate will go into a 2-week-long recess right after this Saturday. So now the fate of more Ukraine funding and more aid to Israel are now really up in the air. Meanwhile, President Biden says he will take more questions on this topic in this upcoming Thursday. So let's see if President Biden will concede to something that's not the same as this one. Steve.
NTD's Iris Tao reporting live from the White House. Thank you, Iris. And a D.C. appeals court has ruled that former President Trump can be prosecuted for his role in the events that unfolded on January 6th in the nation's capital. Trump had argued that his actions were part of his official duties as president and that he was shielded from criminal liability. The court unanimously rejected his argument, saying that Trump, now a private citizen, is subject to prosecution like any other individual. The Trump campaign issued a statement shortly after that decision. It said that if immunity is not granted to a president, the opposing party will indict every future president who leaves office. Trump's team could appeal the decision to the Supreme Court or seek a review by the full appeals court. The Supreme Court declined to fast-track the case, but may ultimately hear it. Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida introduced a resolution co-sponsored by more than 60 of his GOP colleagues, declaring former President Trump did not engage in an insurrection. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has the details.
As the U.S. Supreme Court prepares to hear opening arguments for and against former President Trump's eligibility to run for office, Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz has decided the legislature should have a say in the matter. Gaetz, on Tuesday, introduced a resolution that clearly states that Trump did not engage in an insurrection against the United States, nor did he aid the country's enemies.
And now is time for members of the House and Senate to show where they stand on this question. We and the former president welcome and expect many more co-sponsors in the coming days.
The Colorado Supreme Court and the Secretary of State of Maine recently declared that Trump is not eligible to run for office. They argue Trump engaged in an insurrection, and so according to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, the former president is banned from running for office. But the U.S. Supreme Court will have the final say. The resolution Gaetz introduced would, if approved by the House, send a strong message to the Supreme Court ahead of its considerations of Trump's eligibility. The resolution would also demonstrate the level of support the former president has or does not have in Congress.
He will win at the Supreme Court. He will win in November, and the American people will win. We want a president, again, who cares for us, who cares for our country.
Because Democrats and liars in the media accuse President Trump of being an insurrectionist when in fact he is not. He said, go in peace.
It remains to be seen if the resolution brought forward by U.S. Congressman Matt Gaetz will be put to a vote in the House floor. But support for this resolution will surely be a loyalty test for those House Republicans who have not yet shown their full support for former President Donald Trump's eligibility to run for office. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Luis Eduardo Martinez.
In the next hour or so, lawmakers will decide on impeaching DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. If passed, it would be the first impeachment of a cabinet official in almost 150 years. NTD's Melina Wisecup joins us now from Capitol Hill live. Good evening, Melina. So what are both sides of the aisle saying about this historic vote setting up for this evening?
Now, the message that we've heard from both sides of the aisle today, Steve, has been very clear and concise and along party lines. Republicans have been saying that they have grounds for impeachment because Mayorkas has failed to secure the southern border, failed to enforce the laws at the border. Therefore, he himself has violated the law. Democrats say that Republicans lack evidence here. They also accuse them of undermining the Constitution, saying Republicans wouldn't even be doing this if it weren't for them being under the direction of former President Trump. Meanwhile, House Speaker Mike Johnson says that he doesn't take the issue of impeachment lightly, feeling he has no other choice. Here's what we've heard from both sides of the aisle during the days throughout the day.
Willfully defied existing federal statutes and laws and things that are incumbent upon him, his duty under the laws of the country. He refuses to enforce. There is no other measure for Congress to take but this one. It's an extreme measure.
With no evidence, which is essentially basically on a simple disagreement on policy.
An impeachment effort, I should note, that was demanded by Donald Trump and is being led by Marjorie Taylor Greene. What does this impeachment effort have to do with fixing the challenges at the border?
We're making a statement that somebody's not doing their job. One of the most important jobs in the United States government is to protect our sovereignty. Child trafficking in the tens of thousands. People dying by the hundreds of thousands from fentanyl.
Now, Republicans leading up to tonight's vote have repeatedly pointed to the record number high of illegal crossings under the Biden administration. The DHS has pushed back, though, saying that no administration has ever had operational control at the border. Steve?
So, Melina, as we're waiting to see those results tonight, Republicans are heading into this vote already having lost support from a few within their own ranks. Is there a possibility that this vote could fail for the Republicans?
That's a very real possibility, Steve. And the Republicans that we spoke to about this, about their feelings of the fact that this could actually fail tonight, they said that that's okay with them. Let the chips fall where they may. They still feel an obligation to go ahead and at least make a statement here. Now, at the same time, Republicans have a very slim majority. There are a handful of Republicans who are skeptical of this impeachment. We know of at least 2 Republicans who are definite no votes tonight. They say that this undermines the Constitution as well as makes a next Republican-controlled executive branch more vulnerable to a Democrat-controlled Congress. Listen to this.
There'll be nobody there to stop them because we will have been complicit in redefining the fundamental definition of impeachment.
So we're still eagerly awaiting that House result that should come out in the next half an hour to an hour this evening. But even if Mayorkas is impeached here in the Republican-controlled House, it's highly unlikely he will be impeached in the Democrat-controlled Senate. Steve?
NTD's Melina Weisskopf reporting live from Capitol Hill. Thank you, Melina. Is air travel still safe? Some are questioning the state of American aviation after a series of dangerous incidents in recent months. Today, Congress held a hearing to try and find some answers. Here was the FAA chief.
Let me stress, the safety of the flying public is our mission.
On Tuesday, Federal Aviation Administration Administrator Michael Whitaker testified before Congress for the first time. This after multiple dangerous aviation accidents in January. This footage shows an early January incident during which a door plug was blown out of a Boeing 737 operated by Alaska Airlines. On Tuesday afternoon, the National Transportation Safety Board released the first preliminary report on the door plug that blew off. It found that the Boeing 737 was missing 4 key bolts from the door plug. Another situation making headlines in January was a cargo plane that caught fire. This clip shows the Boeing 747, which had to turn around for an emergency landing shortly after takeoff from Miami. Whitaker told lawmakers on Tuesday that the FAA will have more production checks from now on.
Going forward, we will have more boots on the ground, closely scrutinizing and monitoring production and manufacturing activities. Boeing employees are encouraged to use our FAA hotline to report any safety concerns.
He added that he'll further improve safety by taking 3 steps. Those are monitoring significant safety events, hiring more air traffic control personnel, and ensuring continuous safety improvement. Some Republicans at the hearing asked about airports across the U.S. housing illegal immigrants.
These are unvetted illegal foreign nationals. How does that promote safety or utility or efficiency in these airports?
I think you're out of my area of expertise. I'm not familiar with that circumstance.
I think that answers the question.
Some of the cities which are or have been housing illegal immigrants at airports are Boston, Chicago, and New York City.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.